Sheila Weinberg on the phone now. Sheila, are you there?
I am here.
Hi, Sheila. I'm gonna introduce you. Um, Sheila Weinberg, CPA, is the founder and CEO of the Institute for Truth in Accounting, and she's actually right here in Northbrook, Illinois, which is very cool. Institute for Truth in Accounting is an unaffiliated nonprofit organization that was founded in 2002. Its goal is to ensure that public and private organizations provide truthful financial information useful to a wide variety of users. The Institute is dedicated to the development of standards and awareness that timely, informative, and reliable information is the basis for knowledgeable economic and political decisions. The mission of the Institute is to compel government to produce financial reports that are understandable, reliable, transparent, and correct. So she's got her work cut out for her here in our state of Illinois, but the Institute does work on a national level. Sheila, do you want to talk about what you're most involved with right now in terms of trying to differentiate honest accounting from what you call there at the Institute political accounting, and some of the challenges therein?
Well, one thing we're working on right now is our 50-state project, which we've found that all states but Vermont have a balanced budget requirement, yet all states are going into debt while they're balancing their budget.
Wow. And so all this talk about a balanced budget amendment, most states, I mean, that's on a federal level, but most individual states also have a balanced budget requirement, you're telling us.
Yeah, and we kind of think that the states have been the test for market for balanced budget amendments, and because they do not do proper accounting, they are able to circumvent those requirements. So any federal balanced budget amendment would need to have criteria in there to have them do proper accounting.
Right. And when you talk about proper accounting, can you please, what are some of the tricks for the layman? Some of the tricks that politicians and different government institutions use to kind of conceal some of the spending that they're doing and the insolvency that they're experiencing, so that they don't have to divulge that to the public. How do they kind of cover that over?
Well, they overstate their revenues and understate their expenditures. So revenues in the state of Illinois, their balanced budget requirements says that their funds available have to equal their expenditures. So now they consider if you borrow money, does that not become available? So they can borrow money and still balance their budget. The largest trick that they use is deferred compensation tactics, where instead of including the total compensation cost in the current period, they defer those costs into future periods by offering employee retirement benefits without properly funding those benefits.
Right, and that's something a private corporation would not be able to do, a private company would not be able to do, and stay viable. It'd be more difficult. And as I was looking at your website, truthandaccounting.org, you have a top five, states that are doing well, top worst 5 states, which Illinois is among the worst 5. But tell us about the top 5 states as far as budgetary financial solvency. There are some states that are actually in the black, which is surprising, I guess, to us here in Illinois.
A couple of those have balanced budget requirements that need to follow generally accepted accounting principles. Oh. So that's a plus. And then they also, most of those states have not gotten into heavy retirement benefit programs like Illinois has.
Right. So the retirement, that is really the monkey on our back on a state level and a national level. What do you think is the answer as far as retirement benefits, Social Security? What as an accountant, what can we do with those programs?
Well, we believe that the first step is to get the numbers out to the public, and we promote them and have invented something called fact-based budgeting, which is full accrual calculations and techniques, which will require the governments to record all their only revenues that are related to the budget period in that budget period, and record all costs that are incurred in that budget period. As far as solutions, the public just needs to look at this as a long-term cash shortfall in those programs, Social Security and the pension plans. And the only way to fix a long-term cash shortfall is to either bring more money in or take less money out.
Right. And tell us I'm not sure if you mentioned the top 5 states. What are the top 5, the states that are doing well in terms of their budgeting, their accounting, their, balancing their books?
Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Utah.
So we have, I think, we keep...
And Nebraska.
And Nebraska.
Nebraska.
So we have these western states that are really the model, model for sustainability in this area, and I think other areas too. What do you think it is about those states in particular? I think some of those states, they go ahead.
We have, I just think that they have been, more responsible in their budgeting, and, maybe the people there, because they've had to, be self-reliant.
Right.
Personally, they've, had their governments also try to be self-reliant.
I think that's probably a good idea. One thing we mentioned when we were talking on the phone yesterday was the kind of the fallacy that's out there that Clinton balanced the budget when he was in office. You hear that, and you hear that from the Democrats that, we had a balanced budget in the 80s when Clinton was president. And you told me yesterday, that's absolutely not true. So tell me a little bit about why that's out there and why it's incorrect.
Well, this was the reason I started the Institute, was because I was looking at the budget, and when they announced the surplus, they said that we had a surplus, but again, our debt was going up. And I'm like, I think it's impossible to run a surplus and have your debt go up at the same time. From that, I found that all the money that was considered a surplus was coming from the trust funds. In essence, they were taking money out of your paycheck. They were supposed to be holding that in trust for you, and instead they were recording that as current revenue.
Right.
And if you handled just Social Security like a pension plan is required to be handled, at the point that we were running, quote, surpluses, we were actually running a deficit in that program of $500 billion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what? I have just a second. I want to ask you one more quick question. I'm supposed to wrap up, but I want to get this in here. You hear a lot of talk about, and I just want you to answer quickly, about the comprehensive annual financial report, and there's a lot of information in those, unaccounted for expenses or revenue. I guess what it is assets in there that aren't factored into a typical budget. What is your response to that? It seems like a little bit controversial topic.
Well, the financial statements are audited, and we, go off those audited numbers.
Right.
I think that, there might be land may not be valued in there. And you also have to consider just the, the good standing of America in the world. People are still dying to get in here, so
mm-hmm.
there is some value in that, and it would be a good debate to, should we value that?
Right.
But we just look at the, and the scary thing in Illinois is their financial statements. Again, they ran a balanced budget, but their comprehensive annual financial report showed a deficit of $10 billion in 2010.
Wow. Okay, well, I think you had Bill Walker. Was that his name, Bill Walker? You had him recently here. I think that was the former comptroller. David Walker, sorry.
David Walker.
So that was great. Sorry about that. We have so many people here. And so that, you have great guests there with the Institute. You do a lot of great work, and I encourage people to visit you at truthandaccounting.org. And it's been great talking with you, Sheila.
Thank you, Lisa.